Hello YouTube, my name's Sean Connors and this is DM's Tips. And it's going to be a slightly long-winded DM's Tips and I have to apologise about that, but it's been sort of forced on me in an unusual and interesting way. I've been recently running a 3.5 Dungeons & Dragons campaign for the best part of 15 months. Characters were approaching 14th level and we had a situation on Friday night just gone where, due to the encounter the characters got into, they got a bit of bad luck and we lost our two frontline fighters. The group lost two of its frontline fighters. Now they did run into an enemy that was sort of a half Baylor wielding a Vorpal sword. Now I know that's a tough encounter, but it did throw some interesting problems out, and effectively it meant the two characters that died at this point, having already been previously raised before, and my group has a thing about this, so bear with me. They decided they didn't want to bring back the fighters, and that sort of, I can understand their decisions, but what it sort of meant was, when we all sat round and talked about it as a group, it meant that really we were left with a situation that we couldn't really continue the campaign, because without that balance in the group, things would fall away. Yes, you could have another magic user, yes, you could have another cleric, but it wasn't going to be the same sort of campaign, plus it would mean readjusting a lot of stuff that had already been pre-written. Not that I have an issue with that, but it would have to be done. So we all collectively came to the agreement that the campaign at this point would naturally come to a close. So we wrote off a small piece about where the characters were. So where I'm going with this week in DM's Tips is simply this. People often ask, okay, what do you next do? What are the next steps to building a campaign? What sort of things do you do? What do you bear in mind? And how do you start? What are the tips that you would give? So that was a fantastic question. I don't think one program of DM's Tips is really going to cover it. So I suppose really actually, is it DM's Tips or campaign building? I suppose it's campaign building really, more than DM's Tips. So I think this will be campaign building 1. We're going to cover off some stuff about building campaigns. And what I've done already from Friday is I've started to think ahead to my next campaign. So the first thing I always do is I decide whether I'm going to use it's a pre-existing world that I want to run it in, which is good in one hand, because as a DM, if you've got something that's already been written for you, then you've already got a game world, a map, you've got various information about the politics, the structure of the world, coinage, various other things like that. You haven't got to worry about those things. And that's okay to a degree. If I'm being honest, I would recommend and encourage any referee, any DM, to put aside that and try and do it on your own. I know it's more difficult and I know it's tough, but these are the processing steps that I would start looking at, and I think they're probably quite relevant. For myself, over a number of years, I used to do a lot of hand-drawn stuff, and I'm not very good at drawing. And I hope probably a lot of DMs out there, I hope most of you guys don't say, yeah, actually, you know, I'm really good at drawing. Hope you're like me. I mean, I'll beg, borrow and steal a map wherever I can find one. But over a number of years, obviously, the computer programs have got better. There's a lot of programs out like CC3 and Cartographer and Design and various other things that you can use, which are fantastic. So they make a layman like me who can turn a map into something quite quickly. So I've been working on my next project. So my next project is this. I don't know how well it will show up, but it's called Palexia. And I've then started looking at the various aspects of Palexia, what it is, what it will do. So I've done my original hand-drawn one. And again, I'm hoping that you can see that. So original hand-drawn one to what it is again here. And then I've added in the various sort of states that lie around Palexia. So I'm just getting a vague idea. Now I'm going to keep certain things fairly typical. It's going to definitely be a feudal society, so that's the first thing that I decided on. I wanted Palexia to have a history, so I started to work out a rough timeline of the world events. So a very basic timeline. As you can see, it's just an A4 piece of paper. It has things on there when the area was first populated, when the first era was established, what's happened in its past, so that I have some things to work off. And the idea I've got with this particular campaign is I've decided that the inspiration behind it was something one of my players suggested to me, which was about Tiamat's spawn. So this is the great dragon Tiamat. In my campaign worlds, characters over 25 years have only ever encountered 2 dragons, or actually 3 dragons. But I wanted to do the spawn of Tiamat and actually have an invasion force, sort of almost Second World War idea, where the invasion force arrive, they begin to test the various waters around the Empire to find the weak spots, and hence that's where the characters will come involved. So I've sort of got this vague idea of how I want it to run. I was thinking ahead as well to prestige classes, so I was thinking about something called the Aeon Knights, which is going to be sort of like the Tectonic Knights and various things like that. How the order works, the various mottos. So, for instance, Semper Fidelius Quodda Pia Ordo, Valo Pialens Ela Paramo, which basically translated means always faith and loyal, and the order's code is defend the weak and the poor. Battle cry Vixi Doxa, which is live the glory. So real above and beyond even a paladin, but I think it would be very apt for this particular campaign world. And then I've been roughly sketching out today about the starting point for the game. Again, you probably won't be still, but visible ink this will probably be, but a starting point and a rough idea of the campaign. So what I was thinking is that the characters, because of the original expansion plans of this country, of Palexia, there'd be a lot of conscripts into the army anyway. They've been fearful of attacks. So the characters would be on one of the sort of border keeps, for want of a better word, and they'd have a role there. Most of the force is out. One of the characters will be in charge, and he will be able to see the overview of the plans of the building, be able to decide who's where and when, and then something happens, and the players have to fall back to the bridge that protects the nearby town of Oin, and then if that fails, they've given specific instructions to go from Oin to the next largest capital or wait for reinforcement. I haven't quite decided, but that's how I'm building it at the moment. And the reason I'm covering these bits off is just to give you an idea of how an experienced referee will look at things, how someone will start to take a campaign overview and the sort of things you look at. Now, I've also done a very big piece on the religions of this world, and this is, I think, quite an exciting thing because I've not tackled this before, and I'm just going to quickly cover this off here because it's just to give you an overview, a flavour of how a DM will do it. Now, there'll be 101 different ways that people will do their campaign worlds, but I think as we've got quite a few people who are inexperienced out there who are asking questions, I think it's a good thing to cover off. So quickly bear with me on this. Religions of the world, I've covered off approximately 12 major religions at the moment, all with their own symbols and flavour, all with their own different deities. I've got a calendar of 30 days, 12 calendar months, that's 360 calendar days, broken down into specific parts. So certain days where it's expected there'll be certain masses, lay mass, high mass, festivals, various things that each religion has different dates for. And the thoughts that crossed my mind was, and we've got to remember this is specifically going to be designed for Pathfinder, this particular game, was that the clerics, when they reach those particular dates, they make the effort to actually do what's suggested. Even if there is a war going on, then I'm going to let them have a role, and depending on that, they might gain some piety points, and those piety points can be used to additionally power some of their spells, as well as maybe, additionally lay on hands or various things of that ilk. And I quite like that, and I thought that was really good because it actually encourages them a little bit above and beyond what they currently do, because I never feel I cover that well enough in most campaigns, so that's something I'm sort of putting a bit more into. Now, I'm not adding these rules in or this layer in to say that I know better than the campaign designers or the world designers. Probably phrased that very poorly actually. What I mean by that is I'm not trying to say that Pathfinder rules I know better and therefore I'm adding more layers on. It's just something I want to try and see how it actually plays, because I can take that idea later and then maybe use it for something else. So that's currently where I am with world building at the moment. There are a few things that are going to need to be fleshed out. Major personalities, more information on the Tectonic Knights, more details about the campaign specifics. But at the moment I just wanted to cover off the very first steps that I've begun to make with this campaign world, and then I'll update you. So as I make the next set of steps, I'll also update you in that. So really this has been not DM's Tips, this is Campaign Builder 1. I hope you've enjoyed it, I hope it's been of some value to you. Until the next time, happy gaming and see you then. Bye bye.